You're a fitness coach who's been working at least 1, 2, maybe 3 years, maybe even longer. And I'm going to guess that in that time, you've gotten genuinely good at what you do. Your clients get results, your knowledge is solid, you show up, you do the work, and the people that you coach are better for it. And yet, the business side is not where it should be. Some months are great, some months are dead. The income is unpredictable. The admin is relentless. You are doing everything yourself, from the coaching, the content, the outreach, the invoicing, the follow-ups, and no matter how hard you work, there is a ceiling that you cannot seem to break through. If that's where you are right now, I want you to know something before we go any further. That's not a you problem. That's a structure problem. And that structure is fixable. My name's Andrew and I've spent the last several years building systems specifically for fitness coaches and personal trainers. And what I'm about to walk through in this course is the complete framework for what it actually takes to build a multi-six-figure fitness business. Not the theory, not the motivation, the actual operating model, step by step. By the time you finish this course, you're going to know exactly what's keeping your business below 6 figures and exactly what you need to build to get there and exactly what it looks like in practice. So let's get into it. I want to start with the most important thing that I can say in this entire course. 6 figures is not a hustle milestone. Read that again. Hear that again. 6 figures is not a hustle milestone. It's an infrastructure milestone. The coaches who hit consistent 6-figure revenues are not working harder than you. They're not more talented than you. They don't deserve a bigger following than you. And in most cases, the difference between a coach earning $30,000 a year and a coach earning $150,000 a year is not their effort. It's what's running underneath the effort. The coach earning $150,000 a year has systems that generate leads while they sleep. They have an automated onboarding process that handles new clients without a single manual step. They have a recurring revenue model that means they know on the first of every month roughly what they're going to make before they even do anything. And they have a business that runs on infrastructure, not on their personal presence and their personal effort in every single moving part. The coach who's earning $30,000 a year is doing everything manually. They're getting leads through referrals and through hope. They're onboarding new clients by hand every single time. They have no recurring revenue floor, and they are so deep in that operational weed that they simply have no time to actually grow and scale and invest into the business. They have the same passion, the same skill set, but a completely different business architecture. And that right there is the gap. And that gap is what this course has been built to close. In my experience with working with fitness coaches at every stage of business, there are 4 structural gaps that keep coaches stuck below 6 figures. And every coach that I worked with who was not hitting the numbers that they wanted was missing at least one of these things. Most were actually missing all 4. And I'm going to name them now so you know exactly what we're building towards throughout this course. Gap number 1 is no client acquisition system. What I mean by that is most coaches get clients through referrals, the occasional piece of content that hits, the manual outreach that they do consistently, welcome calls in the gym, referrals from the gym, whatever it may be. But there's no engine, there's no predictable process, there's nothing that's reliably bringing people, the right people, into a conversation that moves them closer towards being a client. So some months are great and some months are dead. Not because the coach themselves did anything differently, but because there's no system making it consistent and they're relying on something or someone else. Gap number 2 is that there's no business operating system. Most coaches are running their business across 5, 6, 7 different tools that don't even talk to each other. One for booking, one for invoicing, one for emails, one for their program delivery, one for their CRM. And they themselves are the integration layer holding it all together, manually, every single day. That's not a business, that's a job. A chaotic, exhausting job that gets harder the more clients you take on. Gap number 3 is no recurring revenue model. You see, most coaches sell packages, 12 weeks, pay up front, the client finishes, the revenue disappears. Every month starts at 0 and has to be rebuilt from scratch. There's no floor, there's no baseline that, is there regardless of how many new clients come in. So the income is unpredictable at best. The financial stress is consistent and the business cannot be forecasted or planned ahead. The business is built on their personal effort. 1 hour for one output, with no compounding effect, no infrastructure that multiplies what they do. You see, these 4 gaps is exactly why most fitness coaches never hit 6 figures or beyond. It's not because they're bad coaches. It's not because the market is too saturated. It's not because they don't know how to sell. It's not even because they need a bigger following or a better niche, but because these 4 structural pieces are missing. This course is going to close all 4 gaps, one lesson at a time. Here's exactly what we're going to cover. In lesson 1, we're going to build the foundation that everything sits on. Your identity, your positioning, your offer stack. Because before you build anything, a client acquisition system or anything of the like, you need absolute clarity on who you're serving, what you're actually selling, and how your offer is structured to create recurring revenue. Most coaches skip this and they wonder why the market doesn't convert. We're not going to skip it. In lesson number 2, we're going to build your client acquisition system, the complete engine, top of funnel and outreach, a structured DM qualification process, and a follow-up and nurture sequence that keeps your warm leads moving even when you're not actively working with them. You're going to have a repeatable, measurable process for getting clients consistently, not occasionally, but consistently. In lesson 3, we're going to fix the operational chaos. We're going to talk about what it looks like to run a coaching business on a single unified operating system. One platform where your CRM, your booking, your invoicing, your client delivery, and your communications all live and connect and talk to each other. And we're going to walk through the 3-layer leverage system that gives you your time back and creates the capacity to actually finally grow. In lesson 4, we're going to build your predictable revenue model. You're going to understand monthly recurring revenue, why it's the only financial metric that actually tells you whether your business is healthy or not, and how to restructure your offers so that you have a recurring floor that is there every month before you do anything. And in lesson 5, we're going to put it all together into a complete scaling playbook. We're going to look at what your business looks like with all 4 pillars running, and we're going to map out the specific path from where you are now to 6 figures and beyond. That's exactly what this course is. It's not theory, it's not motivational, it's prac, it's implementation, and that is what you're going to have by the end of it. And I want to address something directly before we move forward because I think it's a fair question. Why is this course free? Why am I giving this information free? Why am I taking so much time and effort to give this out for free? This is a complete framework. The system that I'm going to walk you through in this course is the same one that I've used to help coaches go from inconsistent income and operational chaos to a predictable, scalable fitness business. The concepts here are worth significantly more than $0. So why am I putting this on YouTube for everyone to see? There are 2 reasons. The first is that I genuinely believe that the fitness coaching industry needs this information. Too many great coaches are being held back by not their ability, but due to a lack of business knowledge that nobody ever actually taught them. If this course gives even a fraction of the people watching it the clarity to build something properly, then it matters to me. The second reason is more honest. A coach who understands this framework at a deep level will do one of 2 things. They'll implement it themselves, and if they do, that's amazing. The information worked exactly as intended. Or they'll look at what needs to be built and realize that they want to get there faster. With the infrastructure already in place and the support behind them, when the moment comes, they'll know who to talk to. And either outcome for me is fine. I'm not here to create dependency. I'm here to be genuinely useful and serve you. So take everything in this course and run with it. Implement it, use it, and build your business with it, because that's exactly what it's here for. Before we move on to lesson 1, I want to set the expectations. This course, like I said, is not motivational. I don't care about your motivation. I don't care about how you feel. There's no hype moments. There's no, you've got this energy. There's no, your dream is waiting for you language. If that is what you're looking for, then this is the wrong course and I want you to leave now. What's in this course is a business operating manual, specific, practical, honest, and every concept that I cover is something that you can implement into your business today. Every framework that I share is one that's been tested with real coaches running real businesses, solving real problems, and changing real lives. I'm going to tell you the things that in this course, they might be uncomfortable to hear. They might sound a little bit big and scary, and that your current setup has a ceiling and you've hit that ceiling. That problem, it's not your effort, it's your architecture. That 6 figures is a system output, not a reward for working hard enough. Some of that may land differently than you expect. That's fine, stay with it. Because the coaches who take this seriously and actually work through every single lesson and implement what's found in it are going to come out on the other side with something real. A real business. A business that works differently than the one they started with. A business that changes lives and changes society in the way that they intended to. A business that serves people the way they had hoped. And that's what we're building. In the next lesson, we're going to start with the foundations. And I mean the real foundations. Not a logo, not a niche label, not a tagline. That stuff doesn't matter right now. The decisions that actually determine who you attract, what you can charge, and whether your business is built to scale or built to plateau. Lesson 1 is called the 6-figure foundation. So let's get into it and I'll see you there. All right, team, let's get started with lesson number 1. In the introduction, I made the case that 6 figures is not a hustle milestone. It's an infrastructure milestone. And I told you that before we build any sort of infrastructure, we need to get the foundations right. And that is what this lesson is about. It's labeled the 6-figure foundations. And I want to be upfront about something before we start. This lesson is going to feel less tactical than the ones that follow. There are no DM scripts here, there's no automation workflows, there's no revenue models or anything like that. What there is the single most important set of decisions that you'll ever make in your coaching business. And most coaches either make them badly or skip over them entirely. Every problem I've ever seen in a coaching business, things like inconsistent clients, poor conversion rates, price resistance, inability to scale, traces back to a weak foundation. Not a broken funnel or bad marketing, not the wrong platform, but a weak foundation. So what we're going to do is we're going to build it properly right now before anything else. So let me paint a picture that I suspect is going to feel familiar. A coach decides that they want to grow their business, so they get to work. They start posting more content, they try running some ads, they look into a new CRM, they watch some videos about funnels and email sequences and lead magnets, they buy a course on Instagram growth. 6 months later, nothing has materially changed. The clients are still inconsistent, the income is still unpredictable, and now they're also tired, exhausted, confused, overwhelmed about what they are even building. Here is what happened. They built the walls before they poured the concrete. Everything they were doing, the content, the ads, the funnel, those are walls. They can be good walls, but if the foundation underneath them is not solid, it doesn't matter how good the walls are. The building just doesn't stand up. The foundation in a coaching business is 3 things. It's your identity, your ICP, and your offer stack in that specific order. When these things are clear, sharp, and aligned, everything else in your business gets easier. The marketing gets easier because you know exactly who you're talking to and what they need to hear. The sales gets easier because you're attracting people who are already the right fit. And pricing is easier because your offer is positioned against a specific outcome that has a clear value to your ICP. And scaling gets easier because your system is designed for a specific person, not for everyone. When these 3 things are vague, generic, or misaligned, every single thing in the business gets harder. Every piece of content you make is trying to speak to everyone and reaching no one. Every sales conversation is an uphill battle because the wrong people are in it. Every attempt to grow hits ceiling because you have not given the market a clear enough reason to choose you specifically over the thousands and thousands and thousands of other coaches. This is the foundation. So let's build it together. The first part of the foundation is your identity as a business. And I don't mean your brand, your colors, your logo, or your Instagram and what it looks like right now. I mean the market position. The answer to the question, why would someone choose you over every other fitness coach in their feed? You see, most coaches can't even answer that question with clarity and conviction. And if you cannot answer it, then your potential clients can't answer it either, which means they default to whoever is the cheapest, whoever they saw most recently, whoever a friend recommended. None of those are reasons that build a business. Your market identity comes down to 3 elements. Element number 1 is your specific results. Not, I help people get fit. Not, I help busy professionals reach their goals. Those aren't results, they are categories. A specific result sounds like this. I help busy professional men over 40 lose their first 20 kilos and build sustainable training habits without giving up the lifestyle they have built. That is a result. It has a who, a what, a number, a constraint. It's specific enough to repel people who it's not for and attract people who it is for. The more specific your result, the more powerful your positioning actually is. Because remember, specificity can feel risky. It feels like you're narrowing your market, you're minimizing your chances of conversion, you're minimizing your audience. You're not. You're clarifying it. And a clarified market converts at a significantly higher rate than a broad one. Element number 2 is your method. Every coach can get clients' results. The question is how. Your method is what makes your approach different from every other coach in your niche and every other coach in the industry. It might be a specific training philosophy, a particular nutritional framework, a mindset component that others ignore, a delivery model that is structured differently. Whatever it is, name it, own it, and make it a core part of how you talk about what you do. Your method does not have to be revolutionary. It has to be yours. When a potential client sees your content and thinks, this person thinks about things differently to everyone else that I follow. That right there is your method doing its job. And element number 3 is proof. Identity without proof is just a claim. The coaches who build 6-figure businesses are not just clear on what they do. They're consistent and deliberate about showing how it works and that it works. Client results, transformations, specific numbers, before and afters, testimonials that speak to the experience of those who are working with you, not just the outcome. One thing I want you to remember is proof is not bragging, proof is evidence. And in a market full of coaches making similar claims to you, your evidence is the differentiator. Your identity is the intersection of these 3 things. A specific result delivered through a distinctive method backed by visible proof. When all 3 things are in place, you stop competing on price and you start competing on your positioning. The second part of the foundation is your ideal client profile, your ICP. I'm going to say something that sounds counterintuitive. The narrower your ICP is, the faster your business grows. And for some reason, most coaches resist this. They think, if I get too specific about who I work with, I'll cut off too many potential clients. But the reality is the opposite. A vague ICP means your content speaks to no one specifically. Your offer solves no specific problem. Your marketing resonates with a broad audience at a shallow level instead of a specific audience at a deep level. And shallow resonance does not convert. Deep resonance does. So let me show you what I mean. Here are 2 versions of an ICP. Version 1, I work with people who want to lose weight and get healthy. Version 2, I work with online fitness coaches earning between $3,000 to $15,000 per month who are technically skilled at coaching, but operationally chaotic, juggling too many tools, no consistent client acquisition system, and income that goes up and down every single month. Version 2 is specific enough that the right person who reads it thinks, that's me. That's exactly me. How does this person know? That feeling of being seen, understood, is what's creating a buyer who's ready. Not a clever ad, not a perfectly designed funnel, a person who reads your positioning and feels like it was wrote specifically for them. So how do you build a sharp ICP? There are 5 questions, and what I want you to do is answer all 5 with as much specificity as you possibly can. Question number 1 is, who are they? Not just their demographic, their professional identity, their current revenue level, their business situation, their day-to-day reality. What does their week actually look like? Question 2, what is the specific problem that they're experiencing? Not the surface level symptom, the underlying structural issue deep down. Not, I can't get enough clients, or I can't lose enough weight, or I have no repeatable system for client acquisition, so my income is completely dependent on referrals and lucky months. Not, I don't know what to eat, so I can't lose weight, or I don't know how to train, so I can't, build muscle, but the deep underlying structural issues. Question 3 is, what have they already tried? And this is critical. The clients who have never tried anything aren't really your clients. Your clients are people who have tried to fix the problem before. Maybe they've bought a course, or they've hired a coach or a PT before, or they've downloaded a free guide and it didn't work or it didn't last. Understanding what they have tried tells you exactly what they're skeptical about and what they need to hear from you. Question 4, what do they actually want? Not what you think they want, what they would tell you if you asked them. There is almost always a gap between what clients say they want on the surface level and what they actually want underneath it. A client says they want to lose fat, but what they actually want is to be able to still enjoy their lives while achieving the results that they're looking for, losing the weight, feeling more confident in themselves without having to give up that piece of their life. A coach might say they want more clients. What they actually want is the financial stability and the confidence that comes from knowing that their business is working. So speak to the real wants, not the surface level stuff. Question number 5 is, what would their life look like if that problem was solved? This is your positioning target. This is the transformation that you're selling. Get specific, not they've lost all the weight that they're looking for, or they're now happier, or anything along the lines. What does their week actually look like now? What stress has disappeared? What outcomes have been achieved? What does their day-to-day life look like? What has become possible that wasn't before? Your ICP is not a marketing exercise. It's the lens through which you make every business decision. What content you create, who you reach out to, how you structure your offer, what you say on sales calls or in consultations, or even during general conversation. Everything filters through this person. Get this wrong and your entire business is aimed at the wrong target. Get it right and everything you build hits. The third part of the foundation is your offer stack, and this is where most coaches leave money on the table. A 6-figure coaching business does not run on one offer. Let me say that again because I want this to land. A 6-figure coaching business doesn't run on one single offer. It runs on a stack of 3 offers that serve the same person at different stages of their journey at different price points. Each layer of the stack has a specific job for a specific person at a specific time. Together, they create a business that has multiple revenue streams, a recurring base, and a natural progression that moves clients deeper and deeper into your ecosystem over time. So here's a 3-layer offer stack. Layer number 1 is the front end offer. This is your entry point. This is the offer that is accessible, low friction, and designed to get the right person into your world and experiencing a quick win. It's your first offer. The job of the front end offer is not to make you rich. It is to qualify buyers and create momentum. For most coaches, this looks like a lower group program, a self-paced training program, a short duration challenge, or a low ticket digital product. The price should be low enough that the right person actually says yes easily, but paid, because free attracts the wrong people, and paid attracts those people who are actually ready to invest in their results. Layer number 2 is the core offer. This is your main event, your highest touch, your highest value offer you have. The one where you do your best work and your clients get the best results. This is almost always a one-to-one coaching or a small group coaching program at a premium price point. The core offer is where the majority of your revenue comes from in the early stages of your business. It is also the offer that most coaches get wrong because they price it too low. They don't structure it around a specific outcome, and they just let it run indefinitely without a clear endpoint. Your core offer should have a defined duration, a specific promised outcome, and a price that reflects the value of that outcome, not the number of hours that you are spent delivering it. Layer number 3 is the retention offer. This is the layer that almost every coach is missing, and it's the layer that creates the revenue floor that makes everything else sustainable. The retention offer is what happens after the core offer ends. When a client completes their 12-week program, their 16-week transformation, their 6-month engagement, whatever it is, what do they move into? For most coaches, the answer is nothing. The client finishes, the revenue disappears, and the coach has to now go in and find a new client to replace them. The retention offer changes this. It's at a lower cost, lower touch ongoing membership, a maintenance program, or a community that clients move into after the core offer ends. It keeps them in your ecosystem, maintains that relationship, and generates monthly recurring revenue that compounds over time. And here is the math on why this matters. 10 clients finishing your core offer and churning is 10 revenue lines that disappear. 10 clients finishing your core offer and moving into a $200 per month retention membership is $2,000 per month in recurring revenue before you sign a new client. 30 clients on retention is a $6,000 per month floor before you even open your laptop at the start of the month. That's not the ceiling of your business. That's the floor. That's the baseline that is there every month, regardless of how many new clients that you sign. The 3-layer stack, front end, core, and retention, isn't complicated to build, but it requires a deliberate decision to build it. Most coaches never make that decision because they're too busy surviving on the core offer alone to think about what happens after it. Now is when you make that decision. Before we close this lesson, I need to also address the pricing, because this is the single area where I see most coaches undermine their own business, sometimes by a factor of 2 or 3 times what they should be charging. Most coaches price their offers based on one of 2 things. Either what they think the market will pay, or some calculation of their hourly rate multiplied by the number of hours they expect to deliver. Both of these are wrong. Full stop. The correct way to price a coaching offer is based on the value of the outcome that you are delivering. So let me give you a concrete example of how this works. If a coach helps a personal trainer go from $10,000 per month to $25,000 per month in 12 weeks, what is that worth? The answer is not whatever the coach's hourly rate times the number of calls they delivered. The answer is a significant fraction of the revenue uplift that the client experienced. That uplift over 12 months is $180,000. A $5,000 coaching investment that generates $180,000 in additional revenue is not expensive. It is one of the highest return investments that clients will ever make. Similar thing for you. If a client has been challenging themselves and busting their ass to lose 15 kilos, and for some reason, year after year, they've tried and invested thousands of dollars into a coach and they just can't seem to do it. And you know for a fact that you can help them lose that 15 kilos in, let's just call it 12 months. What is that worth to them? Price your offer against the outcome, not against your time. This reframe changes everything. When you price against the outcome, you stop feeling like you need to justify your price with more hours, more deliverables, more features. You start justifying it with the transformation. And when you can point to the result clearly, with proof, with specificity, with conviction, price resistance disappears completely. 3 pricing principles to carry forward from lesson 1. 1, your core offer should feel slightly uncomfortable to say out loud. If you are completely comfortable with your price, it's priced too low. The right price is one where you feel the value justifies it completely, but you still take a breath before you say it. 2, never compete on price. The moment you start discounting or positioning yourself as the affordable option, you attract price-sensitive clients who are the hardest to work with, the least committed to the process, and most likely to churn. Premium positioning attracts premium clients every time. 3, your retention offer should be priced at roughly 20 to 30% of your core offer's monthly equivalent. Cheap enough that it's a no-brainer for a client who has already experienced your offer. Expensive enough that it generates meaningful recurring revenue at scale. Before you move on to lesson 2, I want to do something. I want you to stop. I want you to get a notepad or open a document and answer these questions honestly. Number 1, can you describe the specific result your business delivers in 1 sentence with a who, a what, a number, and a constraint that they experience? Number 2, can you describe your ideal client in enough detail that you could scroll through Instagram and identify them within 30 seconds of looking at their profile? Number 3, do you have all 3 layers of the offer stack in place? A front end, a core offer, and a retention offer. Number 4, is your core offer priced against the value of the outcome that it delivers or against your hourly rate? 5, do you have a clear, named method that distinguishes how you get results from how every other coach in your niche gets results? If you cannot answer any of these questions clearly and confidently, that's where you need to start. Not with content, not with a new platform, not with ads. Right here. Because everything that we build in the next 4 lessons, the acquisition system, the operating platform, the recurring revenue model, the scaling playbook, it all runs on this foundation. And a system built on a weak foundation does not scale, it collapses. So get the right foundation in place, then we build on top of it. I always like to say, get the house ready before the guests arrive. In lesson 2, we're moving into the client acquisition system. You now know who you're serving, what you're selling, and how your offers are structured. The next question is, how do you consistently get the right people into a conversation and move them through to becoming a client? That is what lesson 2 is about, a complete, repeatable, measurable engine for a client acquisition system that works whether you have 1,000 followers or 100 followers, or even 100,000 followers. I'll see you there. Okay team, welcome to lesson 2. In lesson 1, we built the foundations. We now have clarity over who you're serving, what the specific result that you're delivering is, and how your offer stack is structured across the 3 layers. That foundation is what everything else that your business is going to have sits on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build the engine that fills it. This lesson is called the client acquisition system. And I want to be clear about what that word system actually means, in this context at least. Because most coaches hear system and they think means, like an automation or a funnel or email sequences, ads running in the background. Yes, that's part of it, but a client acquisition system is bigger than that. It's bigger than any single tactic. It's the complete end-to-end process that takes a stranger who's never heard of you and moves them through to becoming a paying client, repeatedly, predictably, and measurably. When this system is in place in your business, you're going to stop having months that are really good and months that are really bad. You start having a pipeline. A pipeline is what separates a coaching business from a coaching job. So let's build it together right now. Before I show you what the system looks like, I need to show you why the current approach that most coaches are using is broken at a structural level. Because understanding the problem is what makes the solution make sense. So here is how most coaches currently get clients. They post content, sometimes consistently, sometimes not so much. Occasionally a piece of content performs well and a few people reach out. They take a referral here and there from an existing client. When things get quiet, they do some sort of manual outreach, maybe a few DMs, walk the gym floor, a few story replies, maybe a comment on someone's post, and then they wait. In a good month, 2 or 3 people come through and convert. In a bad month, nothing comes through and they panic post and wonder what they're doing wrong. You see, this is not a client acquisition system. This is a hope-based marketing tactic with a side of manual effort. And the reason that it produces inconsistent results is not because the coach is doing a bad job or bad work or because the content is not good enough. It's because there's no structure connecting one stage of the process to the next, to the next, to the next. There's no engine, there's no mechanism for taking that attention that they're currently generating and converting it reliably into clients. There are 3 specific structural failures that I see in almost every coaching business operating this way. Failure number 1 is the top of funnel is inconsistent. Content goes out when the coach has time and energy, which means it stops when they're busy delivering to the clients that they already have, which means that the very thing that it's supposed to generate leads dries up at the exact point when they are at capacity. And then they're scrambling again 2 months later when those clients finish. Failure number 2 is that there is no qualification process. When a lead does come in, when someone replies to a story or slides into their DMs, there is no structured way of handling that conversation. The coach just wings it. Sometimes it converts, sometimes it doesn't, and they have no idea why. Failure number 3 is there's no follow-up infrastructure. This is the most expensive failure of the 3. A lead who says, "not right now," is not a dead lead. They are a future client who needs more time. But without a system to stay front of mind, to keep delivering value, to stay visible, to create natural re-entry points into the conversation, those leads are going to go cold regardless. And 3 months later, that same person ends up signing with a different coach. Not because the other coach was better, but because the other coach stayed in their orbit. The client acquisition system that I'm about to walk you through fixes all 3 of these failures structurally. Not through working harder, but through building something that works regardless of how busy you are on any given day or week. The client acquisition system is built on 3 components. Every 6-figure coaching business that I've studied or worked with has some version of all 3. The coaches who are missing any one of them are the coaches with inconsistent pipelines. The component number 1 is the top of funnel, consistent attention generation. Component number 2 is qualification, a structured conversation process that filters for serious buyers. Component number 3, nurture, a follow-up system that keeps warm leads moving between active cycles. These 3 components run in sequential order and in parallel with each other. So let me walk you through each one in detail. The top of funnel is everything that you do to generate attention from the right people. Content, outreach, competitor interception, all of it. And the key word there is the right people. Not more people, but the right people. I see coaches obsessing over follower counts and reach metrics, trying to get in front of as many people as possible. That is the wrong objective at the top of funnel. The objective here is not volume, it's signal quality. You want the people who see your content and engage with your outreach to be the people who match your ICP as closely as possible. Because those people convert, and a feed full of the wrong followers is just noise. So what does a high quality top of funnel actually look like? Well, it has 2 sides, inbound and outbound, and both need to be running. The inbound side of your content. Your content has one job at the top of funnel. Make the right people feel seen. Not educated, not entertained, seen. When someone scrolls through your feed and hits a piece of your content and thinks, this person is describing my exact situation, that is the moment that they follow you. That is the moment that they start consuming everything that you put out. That's the moment that they become warm. A warm lead without you ever having to speak to them. To make someone feel seen, your content needs to be about their problem, not your solution, but their problem. The specifics of what their week looks like, the exact frustration that they feel every morning, the precise thought that they have at the end of the night when they're going to sleep and they've realized that they've cheated on their diet again. That thing that they've tried that didn't work. The one question that they've been asking themselves that nobody's properly answered yet. Content that describes a problem in more detail than the person experiencing could describe it themselves. That there is the content that builds an audience of buyers, not followers, buyers. And it needs to come out consistently, not necessarily every day, but on a schedule that you can maintain even when you're at full capacity. Because the moment that your content stops is the moment the inbound side of your top of funnel goes dark. The outbound side is competitor interception, and it's something that no one knows. This is the highest leverage outreach strategy available to coaches and businesses on Instagram, and it's massively underutilized. Here's the logic. Your ideal client, fat loss, muscle gain, male, female, whatever that may be, is actively engaging with content from other coaches and the platforms in this space. They're replying to stories, they're commenting on reels, they're liking reels, they're engaging with the ads. That engagement is a signal. It's a signal that they are already problem aware and already solution seeking, already in the mindset of looking for answers. Competitor interception is the practice of going to where that intent already exists, identifying the people who are signaling it, qualifying their profile to confirm that they match your ICP, and starting a genuine conversation with them. Not a pitch, not a copy and paste message, a conversation. The difference between a pitch and a conversation is the difference between a response rate of 5% and a response rate of 50%. And it's not a script difference. It's a posture difference. You're not trying to sell, you're trying to connect. You're coming up as a peer, not a vendor. The highest converting entry point for outbound communication is a story reply. When someone posts a story, you reply to it. Something genuine, something specific to what they've shared, something that actually resonates with them. And the response rate is significantly higher than a cold DM because it's not cold. They just told you something, you responded to it, and it's a conversation. Combining consistent inbound content with structured outbound competitor interception creates a top of funnel that generates attention from the right people every single day. Regardless of your follower count, regardless of the algorithm, regardless of whether you had a viral reel or not. Once someone is in conversation with you, whether they came through the inbound content or the outbound outreach, the second component of the acquisition system kicks in, the DM qualification process. And I want to be very precise about what this is and what it's not, because most coaches either skip this entirely or do it in a bad way that kills conversions. The DM qualification process is not a sales script. It's not a pitch sequence. It's not a series of leading questions designed to back someone into agreeing that they need your help. It's a structured conversation framework that has one goal: to find out whether this person has a problem that you can genuinely solve, and if they do, to earn the right to show them the solution. That's it. There's no manipulation, there's no pressure, there's no premature pitching. It's just a structured way of having a real conversation that moves in a very particular direction. The process runs in 5 phases, and I'm going to show each one to you right now. Phase number 1 is the opener. The opener has one job: get a reply. That is the only metric at this stage. You're not qualifying, you're not positioning, you're starting a conversation with a real human being in a way that feels natural enough to respond to. The rules for the opener are simple. Never open with a generic greeting, never copy and paste the same message to everyone without adapting it, never mention who you are, what you do, or why you're reaching out. Keep it to 1 or 2 sentences. Sound like a person, not someone who's marketing. A story swipe up done well can be as simple as, "This actually caught my attention. How long have you been doing this?" That's it. One genuine question. No agenda visible, just curiosity. Phase number 2 is the rapport. One reply doesn't earn the right to qualify someone. Before you ask any sort of qualifying questions, you need 2 or 3 genuine messages back and forth. Validate what they said. Add a reframe that shows that you understand their problem. Ask a natural follow-on question. The purpose of rapport isn't just to warm them up for a pitch. The purpose is to be a real person having a genuine conversation, because the real coaches who do this well, who are genuinely curious about the people that they talk to, have dramatically higher conversion rates than coaches running scripts. People who feel the difference between someone who is interested in them and someone who's processing them through a funnel. Phase 3 is micro-qualifying. After 2 or 3 messages of genuine rapport, you earn the right to ask a qualification question. And you only need 1 or 2 good ones to surface everything that you need to know. The qualifying questions that you ask should be one that naturally fits into the conversation that has gone. If they've mentioned that they're struggling to follow a specific diet, you ask about what diets they've tried. If they mention that they're doing everything themselves, you ask about, if they've reached out to someone before. If they mention that they're dealing with a lot of stress, you ask them about what they're doing to manage their stress. Some examples for my niche are, is the client flow pretty consistent for you, or are you still up and down month to month? How much of your week would you say is going in towards stuff that isn't directly making you money? Is your income pretty predictable month to month, or does it feel like a bit of a feast or famine? Are you at a point where you could take on more clients tomorrow if you wanted to, or are you at the capacity and things are holding you back? These questions are casual in tone but strategic in intent. They surface the specific pain point that tells you whether this person is someone that you can help or not. And the answer they give tells you exactly what to say next. Phase 4 is the value positioning. Once you know their pain point, you move into value positioning. And this is where most coaches make the critical mistake of starting to pitch. Do not pitch here, position. The difference is, pitching is telling someone about your solution. Positioning is demonstrating that you understand their problem more deeply than they do, and that you have solved it before. This stage is where you deliver one clean insight that reframes their solution. Mirror their pain, point back to them, name the cost of it in time, money, missed opportunity. Drop one specific reframe that makes them see the problem differently, and then ask for permission to show them more. A voice memo is the most powerful tool at this current stage. A 30 to 60 second voice message, personal, warm, direct, converts significantly better than a text at this point in the conversation, because it feels human. It feels like you actually recorded something specifically for them, which you did. The close at this stage isn't a sale. It's what we call a screen share invitation, or maybe it's a quick phone call. You ask them if they want to see what it looks like for their specific solution on a quick 10 to 15 minute conversation. Screen share, phone call, Zoom meeting, whatever it may be. Never call it a discovery call or a strategy session or a consultation or anything like that, because these words raise resistance instantly. Always reframe it as a casual, short, low stakes look. You can say something like, I'll literally share my screen and walk you through what this looks like for you. That framing works because it's true and because it removes the perceived risk of getting on a call and being sold to. Phase number 5 is the objection handling and follow-up. Obviously, not every qualified lead will say yes initially. Some will ask if this is a sales call, some will say send me some info first, some will say that they're too busy right now, and these aren't rejections, they're just friction points. and a friction point has responses. The framework for every objection is 3 steps. Acknowledge what they've said without dismissing it, reframe it gently, and return to the invitation. They say, "Is this a sales call?" Your response is, "No, not at all. I'm not pitching anything. I've built something that solves exactly what you've described to me, and I figured it'd just be easier to show you than explain it in DMs. If it's useful, awesome. If not, at least you got some ideas on how to work with it." Zero pressure either way. If they say, "Send me some info first," you can say, "Yeah, 100%, I can totally do that." The problem is with stuff like this, it never really lands properly if it's a link or a PDF. It needs some context around your specific solution. That's why I'd rather just show you in 10 minutes, you'll get way more out of that than anything I could ever send over. The structure is always the same. Acknowledge, reframe, return. The third component of the acquisition system is the one that most coaches are completely missing, and it's the one that recovers most of the revenue from an existing pipeline, the nurture and follow-up system. Here's the reality. Not every qualified lead is ready to buy right now. Some people are genuinely interested, but the timing just isn't right. Some are in the consideration phase and need a little bit more exposure to your way of thinking before they commit. Some have said not right now, and they mean it, but would probably say yes in 30, 60, 90 days if you were still in their orbit. Without a follow-up system, all of those leads go cold. They do not become clients with someone else because that coach was better than you. They become clients with someone else because that coach stayed visible and you didn't. The follow-up system has 2 layers. Layer number 1 is a direct follow-up sequence. After a value positioning message, if someone goes quiet, you run a 3-stage follow-up sequence. 48 hours, 96 hours, 7 days. At 48 hours, the message is a soft check-in. Just a light touch, no pressure. Something like, "Hey, just circling back, still happy to show you that breakdown if you're keen, no rush." At 96 hours, you re-engage with that specific pain point. Reference what they told you, add a piece of value. Something like, "I keep coming back to what you mentioned earlier about not being able to lose weight while enjoying the foods that you love. That's the exact problem that I built this around. Happy to show you the fix in 10 minutes if you've got a gap this week." Something like that. At 7 days, you send a low pressure exit message that leaves the door open. I'll leave this one with you. If the timing's off, I completely get it. If you ever want that 10-minute walkthrough, just come back to this message. Good luck with everything either way. After 7 days, you stop following up. You move on. Not because they're a dead lead, but because continuing to follow up beyond this point works against your authority positioning. You become the person who keeps messaging, not the person that they want to buy from. Let the content do the work from here. Layer 2 is the content nurturing system. This is the layer that works in the background, not in direct conversation, but through your ongoing presence on the platform. Every lead who's ever been in a DM conversation with you and gone quiet is still watching your content, maybe not actively looking for it, but seeing it when it appears, which means that every single piece of content that you put out is a touch point with every warm lead in your pipeline simultaneously, without you having to do anything. This is why content consistency matters beyond just generating new leads. It also reactivates existing ones. A lead who said not right now in January, who's been watching your content for, let's say, 3 months, who sees a reel in April that describes exactly the problem that they're experiencing right now, that is a re-engagement trigger. And then they come back to the conversation as a significantly warmer lead than they were initially. Your content is not just a lead generation tool, it's a lead reactivation tool. And coaches who understand this create content with both audiences in mind. Cold leads who have never spoken to them before, and warm leads who have already had a conversation and just need more time. I want to close this lesson off with something concrete, because understanding the system conceptually is one thing. Seeing what it produces in numbers is another. When this system is installed and running correctly, with consistent daily inputs, tight ICP targeting, consultative messaging, and disciplined follow-ups, here's what you can expect on a weekly basis. 40 to 60% of the people that you reach out to will reply to your opener. That is not a response rate that you will hit on day one. That is a benchmark that you work towards as your messaging improves and your targeting just gets sharper. 70 to 80% of those conversations should then develop into a multi-message exchange, where you're able to qualify the lead and identify what their pain point actually is. And 30 to 40% of those leads you send a value asset or a voice memo to should accept the screen share offer. Of the people who show up to the screen share, you should be closing somewhere between 30 to 50%. Put those numbers together. If you're doing 30 to 60 outreach messages a day, hitting those benchmarks, you're booking between 2 to 4 screen shares per week. And if you're closing at 30 to 50%, you're adding 2 to 4 new high-ticket clients per month from organic outreach alone. At a core offer price of, let's say, $2,000, that is $4,000 to $8,000 per month in new revenue from a system that doesn't require paid ads, a big following, or any luck. At $3,000, $6,000 to $12,000 per month. At $5,000, $10,000 to $20,000 per month. These numbers are real. They're not just best case projections. They're what happens when the system runs properly with consistent outputs. The variable is not the market, it's not the platform, it's not your following. It's whether you've built the system and whether you are running it consistently or not. Before you move on to lesson 3, the same exercise as lesson 1. Stop here, get your notepad, and answer these questions as honestly as possible. Number 1, is your content output consistent enough to maintain a warm audience even when you are at full capacity? 2, do you have a defined list of competitor accounts whose audience matches your ICP, and are you actively sourcing leads from them? Number 3, when a lead comes into your DMs, do you have a clear 5-phase process for handling that conversation, or are you just winging it? Number 4, do you have a structured follow-up sequence for leads who go quiet after value positioning? And number 5, are you tracking the key metrics? Response rate, conversation rate, screen share booking rate, close rate, so you know exactly where the system is leaking. If the answer to any of these is no, that's the gap. That's the specific thing that you need to build. Because the system only works when all 3 components are running. A great top of funnel with no qualification process is just conversations that are going nowhere. A great qualification process with no follow-up system is just leaving most of your pipeline revenue on the table. All 3 have to work together. And when they do, your client acquisition stops being something that happens to you and starts being something that you can control. In lesson 3, we're moving towards the operational layer. You now have a system for getting the right people into conversation and moving them towards becoming clients. The next question is, what happens on the other side? How do you deliver to those clients, manage the admin, handle the billing, and run the whole operation without eating every hour that you have? Lesson 3 is called the Business Operating System, and it's about building the infrastructure that lets your business run without you being the most important aspect of every moving part. I'll see you there. Okay team, welcome to lesson 3. In lesson 1, you built the foundations. Clear identity, sharp ICP, and the 3-layer offer stack. In lesson 2, you built the acquisition engine, your top of funnel, your DM qualification, and your follow-up and nurturing processes. You now have a system that brings the right people into conversations and moves them towards becoming clients, which means if you've implemented what's in those 2 lessons, you're about to have more clients coming in than you've ever had before. And that's exactly when new problems surface, because the thing that breaks most coaching businesses at this stage isn't the demand, it's the operational infrastructure, or the complete lack of it, behind the demand. This lesson is called the Business Operating System, and it's about building the layer of your business that most coaches ignore until it's causing way too many problems and some serious damage. The systems, the automations, the unified infrastructure that allows your business to deliver and to operate and to grow without you manually being present in every single moving part. When this layer is missing, your growth actually makes everything worse. Every new client that you add creates more admin, more manual steps, more things to chase, more opportunities for things to fall through the cracks. The business gets bigger and harder simultaneously. And at some point, usually well before the 6 figures, you hit a ceiling and you cannot push through no matter how hard you work and how hard you try. And in this lesson, we're going to show you how to remove that ceiling. So let's get into it. I want to start with a concept that I call the hidden tax, because I think it's the single most useful frame for understanding why operational chaos is just so damaging to a coaching business like yours, and why most coaches don't even realize how much it's costing them. The hidden tax is the time, it's the energy, it's the revenue that you lose every single week to the operational friction in your business. And it's hidden because it doesn't show up as a line item anywhere. It doesn't appear on your profit and loss. There's no invoice for it. It just quietly takes hours away from your week, your mental bandwidth, from thinking, from the momentum that your growth needs. And it's done every single day. So let me make it concrete. Every time that you manually onboard a new client, you send the welcome email, the intake form, the program access link, the contract, the invoice. That is somewhere between 45 minutes and 90 minutes of your time per client every single time you onboard someone. Every time a client's payment doesn't process automatically and you have to follow it up manually, that's another 15 to 30 minutes per occurrence. And if you've got 10 clients and even 2 of them have payment issues in a given month, that's an hour of your spare time chasing money instead of making it. Every time you switch between your CRM and your booking tool and your invoicing software and your email platform to piece together a complete picture of where a lead or a client is, that context switching is costing you somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes of productive focus time. The research on cognitive switching is consistent on this. Every time that your brain has to reorient to a new tool, a new context, a new set of information, it takes time to get back to full capacity, and you're doing that multiple times a day. Every time a new client asks you a question that you've answered 40 times before, how does the program work? When do we check in? How do I access my materials? And you type out the answers manually instead of having an automated system to handle it, that's another 5 to 10 minutes gone. None of these feel big in isolation, but add them up across a week, a month, a year, and you're looking at hundreds of hours, potentially the equivalent to 6 to 8 weeks of full working time lost every single year to tasks that should never have required your manual input even in the first place. That right there is the hidden tax that I'm talking about. And the only way to stop paying it is to build infrastructure that handles these tasks automatically, consistently, without you. And before I show you what the solution looks like, I need to address the root cause of most operational chaos in coaching businesses. And that root cause is tool fragmentation. You see, most coaches are running their business across a stack of 5, 6, 7 different tools, sometimes even 10. A CRM that doesn't talk to a booking tool that doesn't talk to the invoicing software, an invoicing software that doesn't connect to the email platform, an email platform that's separate from the program delivery app, a program delivery app that has no relationship with the payment gateway, and the coach is the integration layer that's holding all of it together manually every single day. Here is how this stack usually gets built. A coach needs to take bookings, so they grab a booking tool. They need to invoice a client, so they start adding invoicing platforms. They want to send emails, so they sign up for an email marketing tool. Someone tells them that they need a CRM to hold everything together, so they add one of those too. Then a course comes out about a program delivery app, and then they add that as well. And then they need to take payments online, so there's another app. Every single decision was rational at the time. Every tool solved a real problem. You see, the issue is not an individual tool. It's what happens when you stack 6 of them on top of each other and expect them to function as a coherent system. They just don't. They were never designed to. And the real result is a business that feels more complicated the more it grows, when it should be feeling less complicated. The technical term for this is tool fragmentation. The practical experience of it is constant context switching, manual duplication of data across multiple platforms, things falling through the cracks because no one system has the complete picture, and a creeping sense of chaos that never fully goes away no matter how organized that you try to be. And here is the part that makes this particularly damaging. Tool fragmentation compounds. When you have 3 clients, you can manage this manually, and it's easy, it's not that bad. It's annoying, but it's survivable. When you have 15 or 20 clients, each one in multiple systems, each system requiring its own login, its own updates, its own manual processes, and its own payments, the cracks become craters. The same broken infrastructure that was slightly chaotic at a low volume becomes completely unmanageable at scale. And this is one of the primary reasons that coaching businesses hit a revenue ceiling. They cannot break through, not because they can't get more clients, because the operational infrastructure collapses under the weight of the clients that they already have. The solution to tool fragmentation is not trying to use fewer tools for its own sake. The solution is the consolidation onto one single unified business operating system. One platform, one login, One place where your CRM, your pipeline, your booking, your invoicing and your contracts, and even your client communications are all in the one place. Your SMSs, your emails, your everything, your automation engine all just live together and talk together natively. That is where your business runs on a single unified operating system. Something fundamental here changes. You stop being that integration layer. The system becomes the integration layer. Data flows automatically between your functions. A new lead comes in through your content and lands in your CRM automatically. When they book a call, it appears in your pipeline. When they become a client, the onboarding sequence fires without you touching anything. The invoices are generated, the contracts go out, the welcome emails land, the program access is granted. You did nothing. Your system did it all. And that's not laziness, that's leverage. So let me walk you through what each function looks like inside a unified operating system, specifically for a fitness coaching business like yours. The first is CRM and pipeline management. Your CRM is a central nervous system of your business. Every lead, every prospect, every client, their contact information, their conversation history, their current stage in your pipeline, their payment status, their program progress, all of it lives in one place. You can see it all at a single glance exactly where every person in your business ecosystem sits. Who needs a follow-up? Who has a late payment that's due? Who's ready for an upgrade conversation? Who's gone quiet? No spreadsheets, no cross-referencing between platforms. One single screen. Automated client onboarding. This is where the biggest immediate time saving comes from for most coaches. When a new client is marked as signed in your CRM, or maybe when they've made their first payment, the entire onboarding sequence fires automatically. The welcome email goes out with their name, their start date, and everything that they need to know about working with you. The intake questionnaire is linked and delivered. Their program access is granted. The contract is sent and ready for signature. The first invoice is generated and sent. The onboarding call booking link is included. And all of this happens in the background without a single manual step every single time. That's 45 to 90 minutes of your time handed back per client intake. If you're bringing on 4 clients per month, that's 3 to 6 hours per month reclaimed from one single automation. Integrated booking and calendar. Your booking system lives inside the same platform as your CRM and your pipeline. When a new lead books an appointment, let's call it a consultation, it does not just appear in a separate booking tool. It triggers an automatic update in your pipeline. It sends a confirmation to the lead, schedules a reminder sequence without you touching anything. And when you move a lead to a specific stage in your pipeline, a booking link automatically goes out. The calendar and the CRM are not separate things. They are the same. Invoicing and contracts in one place. Your financial administration, invoices, payment schedules, contracts, recurring billing, your coupons, all of it live in the same system as your client records. So you can see at a glance whether a client has paid, whether their contract is signed, when their next payment is due, and what their payment history looks like. Recurring billing runs automatically. Your payment reminders go out automatically. Failed payment follow-ups trigger automatically so that you're not chasing money. The system is doing it all. Unified communications inbox. Every conversation you're having with every lead and every client, whether it's an Instagram DM that has been moved into your pipeline, an email, an SMS, a WhatsApp, sits in a single inbox inside your operating system. That way, you're not switching between 5 different apps to check your messages. Your desktop, your laptop, your phone, your iPad. You open one inbox and you see everything. You respond in one place, and every response is automatically logged against that person's record in your CRM. Program delivery and client experience. Your coaching programs, your educational content, your check-in processes, your progress tracking, all of it can live in the same platform. Automated check-in sequences, progress reminders, and milestone messages can go out on a schedule without any sort of manual input from you. When all of these functions are running inside one single unified system, when they're talking to each other, triggering each other, and operating without you manually stitching them together, the experience of running your fitness business changes completely. It becomes quieter, more controlled, less reactive, and significantly less time consuming. Building a unified operating system handles the consolidation problem, but there is a second layer to the operational challenge, and that is the leverage problem. Even with a great operating system, there are tasks in your inbox that require human judgment, creativity, and expertise. The question is, which tasks require you specifically? Because not everything that requires a human requires you. The three-stage leverage model is a framework for thinking about how to categorize every task in your business and decide what you want to do with it. Layer number one is automate the repeatable. Any tasks that happen the same way every time and doesn't require human judgment should not be happening manually. Full stop. Client onboarding, automate it. Billing and payment collection, automate it. Appointment reminders, automate it. Lead follow-up sequences, automate it. Welcome emails, intake processes, contract delivery, progress check-ins, automate them all. The test for this layer is simple. Ask yourself, does this task look exactly the same every time I do it? If yes, then it should be automated. Because every time you do it manually, you're spending time and cognitive energy on something a system could handle with zero errors and zero effort. One specific example is that most coaches spend significant time every week answering the same questions from new clients. How does the program work? When are our check-in calls? How do I submit my food diary? These questions are predictable. They happen every single time a new client starts. Building an automated onboarding sequence that answers all these questions proactively, even before the client asks them, eliminates the questions entirely. The client gets a better experience and you get your time back. Layer number two is systemize the client experience. Your expertise as a coach shouldn't live exclusively inside your head and get reconstructed from scratch for every new client. It should live in a structured, documented, repeatable delivery system that clients move through consistently. This means a documented program framework, pre-recorded educational content for concepts you explain repeatedly, templated check-in structures, clear weekly and monthly milestones that clients track against, a defined client journey from day one to the end of their program, with every touchpoint mapped out and every communication automated where possible. When your client delivery is systemized, then two things can happen. Firstly, you can serve more clients in the same hours because the infrastructure is doing the heavy lifting between your personal touchpoints. You're not starting from scratch with every client. You're stepping into a structure that already exists and personalizing within it. Second, the quality of the client experience becomes consistent. Every client gets the same high quality process. Not a great experience if you're having a good week and a mediocre one if you're overwhelmed. Systemized delivery is also what makes delegation possible. If everything lives in your head, then you can't hand anything off. But if your client experience is documented and structured, it becomes something a team member can support, which matters when we get to the scaling conversation in lesson number 5. Layer number 3, build outreach infrastructure that runs in the background. This is the layer that connects back to the acquisition system from lesson 2. Your lead flow right now probably lives or dies based on how much active outreach that you personally do each week. When you're busy delivering to clients, your outreach stops. When your outreach stops, the pipeline dries up. And 2 months later, you're scrambling again. Layer number 3 of the leverage model is about building outreach infrastructure that keeps your top of funnel moving whether you're actively working on it or not. Content is scheduled and queued so that it goes out on a cadence regardless of your week. Automated follow-up sequences for warm leads so that they can keep receiving value even when you're deep in your client delivery. CRM workflows that flag leads who need re-engagement before they go completely cold. The goal of this layer is extremely simple. Your pipeline should not stop because you had a busy week. Your lead flow should not be dependent on whether you personally had time to make content and post the content. The infrastructure should carry the momentum through the weeks when your attention is elsewhere. Let me make this concrete with a before and after picture because I think seeing the contrast clearly is more useful than any amount of conceptual description. The before. A coach with no unified operating system and no leverage infrastructure starts every Monday morning by opening 8 different tabs. They check their booking tool for this week's calls. They open their spreadsheet to see which clients are due for check-ins. They log into their invoicing software to see who's paid and who's not. They open Instagram to check DMs. They open their email to check messages there. They open their program delivery app to see if any clients have submitted their check-ins. They open their CRM, if they have one, to see where all the leads are. Then they start working through the list. They manually send an invoice to a client who didn't pay. They type out a check-in response to each client individually. They follow up on the lead who went quiet 3 days ago. They onboard the new client who signed over the weekend, manually sending the welcome email, the questionnaire link, the contract, the initial invoice, and the access details. By the time they finish their morning admin, it's noon. They have not coached a single person. They have not created a single piece of content. They have not done a single outreach message. And the same thing is going to happen tomorrow. But what about the after? A coach with a unified operating system and the 3 layers of leverage in place opens one screen on Monday morning. Their CRM shows exactly what needs attention today. Flagged leads, upcoming calls, payments due, client milestones. The content for the week has been scheduled and is already queuing. The automated follow-up sequence sent a message to a lead who went quiet 3 days ago without them doing anything. Recurring invoices are being collected automatically. The check-in reminders went out to clients on their scheduled day. They spend the morning coaching, the afternoon creating content or doing outreach, and the business is operating. Not because they showed up and manually ran it, but because the infrastructure that they've built is running it for them. And that's the difference. Not a small difference, a complete structural transformation in how their time is spent and how their business functions. And so I want to give you a realistic picture of what the time recovery looks like when a coaching business consolidates and installs the 3 leverage layers, because I think the numbers are more significant than most coaches actually expect. Manual client onboarding, eliminated. That's 45 minutes per client. Invoice chasing and payment admin, reduced to near zero. That's 1 to 2 hours per week. Context switching between different platforms, eliminated. That's 30 to 60 minutes per day. Answering repetitive client questions manually, reduced significantly. That's another 30 to 60 minutes per day. Manual lead follow-ups, reduced to the conversations that actually require your judgment. That's 30 to 60 minutes per day. Added together, the coaches that I work with typically reclaim somewhere between 8 to 12 hours per week when they consolidate their tools and install the leverage infrastructure. That is 1 to 1.5 full working days handed back to them every single week. And here is why those numbers matter so much in the context of this course. Those recovered hours are not hours for rest. Although rest is important, they're hours that need to go into the activities that actually grow the business. Things like content creation, outreach, sales conversation, strategic thinking. These are the things that require your expertise and your judgment and your presence. The things that no system can do for you. The coaches who hit 6 figures and beyond are not working more hours than those coaches who are stuck. They're spending their hours differently, and the operational infrastructure is what makes that possible. We're going to go into the same exercise as the previous 2 lessons. Before you move on to lesson number 4, I want you to stop and answer these questions honestly. Number 1, how many separate platforms are you currently using to run your fitness coaching business? List them out. Every single one, from your socials to your CRM to everything else. Number 2, how many hours per week are you spending on tasks that a system could handle automatically? And be honest with the estimate. Number 3, is your client onboarding process fully automated, or are you manually handling some or all of it for every new client? Number 4, is your billing running on automated recurring payments, or are you manually invoicing and chasing? Number 5, do you have a single place where you can see the complete picture of every lead and every client? Their stage, their payment status, their communication history, without opening multiple platforms. Number 6, does your lead follow-up continue automatically when you are busy with client delivery, or does the pipeline go quiet when you go quiet? If any of these reveal gaps, that's what to fix now. Not more effort, but with infrastructure. Because here's the truth. You can't outwork a broken operating system. You can't hustle your way through tool fragmentation, because at some point, the manual workload becomes the ceiling. And the only way through that ceiling is to replace the manual work with infrastructure that runs whether you're in it or not. Build the operating system, install the leverage layers, and get your time back. Then use that time to grow. In lesson 4, we're going to move into the financial architecture of your business. You now have the acquisition system bringing clients in. You have the operating system handling the delivery and the admin without the manual drag. The next question is, what does the financial model underneath all of this look like? And specifically, how do you build a business where you know on the first of every month what you're going to make before you do anything? Lesson 4 is called predictable revenue, and it's about building the financial floor that makes everything else sustainable. I'll see you there. All right, team, welcome to lesson 4. Let me recap where we are right now. In lesson 1, you built the foundation, the identity, the ICP, and the offer stack. In lesson 2, you built the client acquisition system, top of funnel, DM qualification, and nurture and follow up. In lesson 3, you built the business operating system, that unified platform, the automated delivery, and the 3-layer leverage model. If you've been implementing as you go, your business already looks structurally different to what it did before you started this course. You now have a clear identity, a more deliberate acquisition system, a picture of what your operational infrastructure needs to look like. Now we go to the layer that underpins everything else, the financial architecture. This lesson is called predictable revenue, and it addresses what I believe is the most emotionally draining aspect of running a fitness coaching business, the complete inability to forecast your own income. Because here's what I know about financial unpredictability. It's not just a numbers problem, it's a thinking problem. When you don't know what you're going to make next month, you cannot think clearly. Every decision that you make is colored by anxiety. Every sales conversation you have is slightly desperate because you need the sale. Every investment decision, from hiring to tools to education, gets delayed because you're not sure if next month is going to hold up or not. You see, the financial unpredictability does not just affect your bank account. It affects your judgment, your confidence, your energy, and ultimately your ability to build the business that you're trying to build right now. This lesson fixes that, so let's get into it. The feast or famine cycle is so common in fitness coaching businesses that most coaches assume that it's just the nature of the industry. Some months are great and some months are dead, and that's just how it is. It's not just how it is. It's a symptom of a very specific structural problem, and like every structural problem in this course, it's a fixable one. It's fixable once you can clearly see it. Here's what's actually causing it. The vast majority of coaching businesses are built off one-off revenue. A client pays for a 12-week program, or a 6-month engagement, or a single block of sessions. They pay once, sometimes upfront, sometimes in installments, and when the engagement ends, the revenue disappears. This means that every time a client finishes, you have a revenue line that vanishes. And if 3 or 4 clients finish in the same month, which happens constantly because cohorts kind of tend to move together, you go from having a great month to a very difficult month overnight. And it's not because you did anything wrong. It's not because the market changed. It's not because the algorithm changed, but it's because your revenue model has no floor. A business with no floor has to rebuild from zero every single month. And every month is a fresh start. Every month, the income depends entirely on how many new clients you can sign that month. And because client acquisition is also inconsistent, for the reasons we covered in lesson 2, you get that feast or famine pattern. The months where acquisition is strong and clients are finishing line up into great months. The months where acquisition is quiet and clients have already finished line up to be dead months. And then there is the second cause of that feast or famine that almost nobody talks about. The absence of the lead nurture system between the active cycles. Your good months happen when multiple things line up simultaneously. Your content is performing, you're active in outreach, a few referrals come in at the same time, it feels like momentum. But what actually is happening is that several leads have ripened at the same moment. People have been in your orbit for long enough to be ready to buy. The problem is that between those peaks, warm leads are going cold. The people who were interested but not yet ready 3 months ago, they never got followed up with in a meaningful way. So by the time they are ready, they've already moved on, and your dead months are largely the result of a pipeline that was no longer being actively maintained between the good ones. 2 structural failures, no recurring revenue floor and no lead nurture system. Both are fixable, and fixing them changes the entire financial texture of your business. The single most important financial concept in this lesson is the revenue floor. The revenue floor is a baseline number made up of recurring monthly commitments from existing clients. That is there on the first of every month before you do anything, before you post a single piece of content, before you send a single outreach message, before you close a single new client. That number exists because what you've built is a model that generates it automatically. When you have a floor, everything above it is upside. When you don't have a floor, you're building the house from the foundations up every single month. So let me show you the math on this and why it matters. Imagine you had 15 active clients and all of them are on one-off 12-week packages at $2,000 each. In a month where you sign, let's say, 4 new clients, your revenue is $8,000. In a month where you sign 1 new client, your revenue is $2,000. In a month where you sign nobody, your revenue is 0. That feast or famine pattern, that is the feast or famine pattern in its simplest form. Now imagine the same 15 clients, but instead of churning at the end of their 12-week program, 10 of them move into a monthly retention membership at, let's say, $200 per month. And that's your floor. Before you sign a single new client is $2,000 per month, every month, regardless of what happens with your acquisition that month. Now imagine you grow that retention base to 20 clients at $2,000 per month. Your floor is now $4,000. 30 clients, $6,000. 50 clients, $10,000 per month in recurring revenue before you do anything new. That is not the ceiling of your business. That's the baseline, the floor that is there every month, compounding as your client base grows, creating a financial foundation that makes everything less desperate and everything more strategic. The floor changes the psychology of your entire business. When you know that a meaningful baseline is coming in regardless, that you are not starting from zero, your sales conversations change altogether. Your content creation changes, your outreach changes. You stop operating from a scarcity mindset and you start operating from stability. And that shift alone, that psychological shift, produces better results across every part of your business than anything else. So how do you actually build the floor? There are 3 specific moves. Move number 1 is restructure your offers to include a recurring retention component automatically. In lesson 1, I introduced the 3-layer offer stack: the front end, the core offer, and the retention offer. The retention offer is the mechanism that creates your revenue floor. If you do not currently have a retention offer, something that clients move into automatically after the engagement ends, then that is the first thing that you need to build. And I want to give you a clear picture of what it looks like in practice because coaches often overthink it. The retention offer doesn't have to be something complex. It doesn't have to be fully built mentorship platform with hundreds of pieces of content. It can be as simple as a monthly group coaching call, access to a private community, an ongoing accountability check-in, or a light touch of support and structure that keeps clients connected to you and to each other after the core program ends. The key is that it has ongoing value. Value that is worth paying for month after month, and at a price point that's low enough to be a no-brainer for a client who's just experienced your core offer, which is generally much more expensive. Somewhere between 15 and 30% of your core offer's monthly equivalent is a good target. If your core offer is $2,000 for 12 weeks, roughly $660 per month. Your retention offer should be priced somewhere between $100 and $200 per month. At that price point, the decision for a client who has just gone through a great 12-week program with you is almost frictionless. They have experienced the value, they trust you, they want to maintain what they've built. $200 per month to stay connected and supported is an easy yes. Move number 2 is to have the retention conversation at the right moment. Building the retention offer is only half of the equation. The other half is having the conversation that moves clients into it and having it at the right moment. The right moment is not the last week of the program, and I want to be clear about that, because by that point, the client is already in wind down mode. They are thinking about what comes next. The urgency of the original problem has reduced because you've been solving it for them for 12 weeks. Having that retention conversation in the final week feels like an upsell at the checkout counter. The right moment is around at the halfway point of the core program, 4 to 6 weeks in. This is when the client is experiencing results. Their motivation is high. They can see transformation happening. The relationship between you and them is strong. and the thought of support disappearing in 6 weeks feels genuinely uncomfortable to them. That is when you have the conversation. You frame it not as a sales pitch, but as a natural next step. Something like, hey, you're making great progress and I want to make sure that we don't lose this momentum. When the program wraps up, I have a monthly option for clients who want to keep the structure in place without the full intensity of the program. It's worth talking about before we get to the end. That conversation at that moment will convert a higher percentage of your active clients into retention members, and every one of those conversions add to your floor. Better yet, you can even place this automatically at the end of the 12 weeks with them. So let's say, for example, within your core offer, you automatically have them transfer into the retention offer as a stock standard approach. They do their initial 12 weeks with you during the core offer, and then after that 12 weeks, they transition automatically into the recurring offer or the retention offer, ongoing until essentially they cancel. And that can be baked into the actual onboarding and sales process and even the contract itself. So you got two methods there, either one works. Move number 3 is to convert existing one-off clients into recurring. If you have the existing clients on one-off packages who are mid-engagement or are coming up to the end date, you have an immediate opportunity to begin building your floor before you even restructure your offer architecture formally. A direct, honest conversation about what ongoing support looks like is all it takes. You don't need to fully build the retention product before you have this conversation. You can offer a simple monthly check-in structure, access to a group call, or a light accountability arrangement at a modest monthly fee. The key here is that it creates a recurring commitment and a monthly charge that continues as long as the client finds value in it. Done correctly, this conversation with your current client base can create a meaningful recurring revenue base within 30 to 60 days without signing a single new client. I now want to spend some time on the metrics, because one of the most common mistakes I see in coaching businesses is measuring the wrong number and making decisions based on a misleading picture of the business's health. You see, most coaches track total monthly revenue, the number that shows up when you add everything that came in for that month. New client packages, recurring memberships, one-off products, everything together. That number is not useless, but it's incomplete, and in some cases, it's actually actively misleading. And here's why. A month where you generate $15,000 in total revenue could look very different depending on what's underneath all of that. If 12,000 of that is recurring revenue from existing clients and 3,000 of that is from a new client, that's a healthy month. Your floor is strong, your business is stable, and the new client revenue is upside of the total solid base. But if all $15,000 came from 3 new one-off client packages, your recurring base is 0. That month looks identical on the surface, but tells you a completely different story about the health of your business, because next month you start again from 0. That $15,000 gave you no floor, no foundation, no momentum that carries you forward automatically. The total monthly revenue doesn't distinguish between the two scenarios. Monthly recurring revenue does. Your MRR, or your monthly recurring revenue, is the sum of all recurring monthly commitments in your business. Retention memberships, monthly retainers, subscription products, any revenue that is contractually or habitually committed to repeat every single month. That is the number that tells you whether your business is actually building towards something sustainable or whether you're running on a treadmill that stops the moment that you do. So start tracking your monthly recurring revenue separately from your total revenue, like today, like right now, not next month, not when you have this set up and your retention offer ready, today. Because even if your MRR is currently 0, knowing it's at 0 is the first step to changing it, and then watch that number grow. Set a target for where your MRR needs to be in 90 days, in 6 months, in 12 months, and make it the primary financial metric that you report on and that you make decisions around, because it is the only number that tells you whether your business is becoming more stable or less stable over time. So I want to give you a quick, concrete, realistic picture of what it looks like to go from 0 MRR to a meaningful recurring floor in 90 days. So here's a 90-day sequence for you. Days 1 to 30, I want you to build and price the retention offer. In the first 30 days, your job is to design and price your retention offer. Keep it simple: a monthly group coaching call, a private community, a check-in structure, an ongoing support arrangement. You don't need to build something complex like a membership portal just yet. You're not there and you're not ready for that. You need something with clear ongoing value at a price point that converts easily from your core offer. Simultaneously, map out your current active client list and identify every client who's within 60 days of finishing their core engagement. These are your first retention conversations. Have them at the halfway point of the remaining engagement, not at the end. Days 30 to 60, have retention conversations and begin converting. In the second 30 days, you're having those retention conversations with every client who's approaching the end of their program. You're also beginning to offer the retention tier as a natural next step to any new clients that you sign in this period. It becomes part of how you present the overall client journey from the very start of the engagement. Additionally, you're looking at your existing client base, including clients who have finished up in the last 3 to 6 months, and considering a re-engagement outreach. A simple and honest message to former clients, explaining that you've built something that's ongoing and thought of them specifically. Some will say yes, some probably won't even reply. And everyone who says yes just adds to the floor. Day 60 to 90, I want you to track, refine, and compound. In the final 30 days, you're tracking your MRR weekly. You're watching the number grow and identifying exactly which conversations and which offers are converting and which aren't. You're then refining the framing of the retention conversation based on what's working. You're testing, does it work better at the midpoint or before they even start? And you're beginning to see the compounding effects. As each new client you sign moves into the retention tier at the end of their program, the floor incrementally rises. At the end of the 90 days, a coach who's implemented this process consistently, who has had the retention conversation with every applicable client, made the offer clearly and tracked the number, typically has an MRR of somewhere between $1,000 and $4,000 per month, depending on their current client volume. And I know that might not sound like life-changing numbers on its own right now, but understand what it represents. That is $1,000 to $4,000 that is there on the 1st of next month before you do anything, and the month after, and the month after that, while the floor grows every time you convert a new retention client. The goal at the end of year 1 is not a massive MRR. The goal is a meaningful floor that reduces your financial stress, changes the psychology of your sales conversations, and creates the stable base from which everything in lesson 5 becomes possible. I want to close this lesson with something that doesn't get talked about enough in business education, because most courses focus on tactics and skip the psychological dimension entirely, and I think that's a massive mistake. When your income is unpredictable, a specific kind of cognitive distortion starts to set in. Every sales conversation that you have is colored by your need. Not the client's need, but yours. The need for the sale to happen because last month was quiet and next month's bills are real. The need is invisible to you, but visible to the prospect. It changes your energy and it makes you slightly less willing to walk away from a bad fit, slightly more likely to discount, slightly more likely to oversell and underdeliver. And prospects can feel the desperation in a sales conversation even when it's not explicit, which is why conversion rates tend to be lower in the months when you need them the most. When you have a floor, when you know that baseline is coming in, regardless of whether this particular conversation converts or not, everything changes. You show up to sales conversations from a position of genuine strength, not arrogance, but strength. The kind of confidence that comes from not needing any individual sale to work out. The kind of selective posture that actually attracts clients instead of repelling them. You ask better qualifying questions because you are genuinely assessing the fit, not trying to make it a fit. You're more willing to say that this is not the right fit and move on. And paradoxically, that posture closes more sales than the desperate alternative ever did. The floor doesn't just change your financial position, it changes who you are in a sales conversation. And who you are in a sales conversation is often the difference between a 30% close rate and a 50% close rate. So build the floor, not just for the financial stability, but for the clarity of thinking and the quality of the decision making that comes with it. Same exercise as the previous 3 lessons. Before you move on to lesson number 5, I want you to stop and answer these questions honestly. Number 1, what is your current MRR? Add up every recurring monthly commitment in your business right now. If the number is 0, then write down 0, knowing that it's the starting point. Question 2, do you have a retention offer in place that clients can move into after their core program ends? If not, what would the simplest version of that look like? Question number 3, which of your current clients is within 60 days of finishing their core engagement with you? Of those clients, who are you going to speak to first regarding the retention conversation? Number 4, what would your MRR floor be in 90 days if 50% of your current active clients moved into a $200 per month retention offer? Do that calculation and write the number down. Number 5, are you currently tracking MRR separately from your total monthly revenue? If not, then start today. These 5 questions will tell you exactly where you are on the revenue stability spectrum and exactly what to build next. In lesson 5, we bring everything together. You now have all 4 pillars of the business: the foundation, the acquisition system, the operating system, and the recurring revenue model. Lesson 5 is called the scaling playbook, and it's about what happens when all 4 of these pillars are running simultaneously, what the business looks like, what becomes possible, and what the specific path looks like for you from here, from now, to 6 figures and beyond. This is the lesson that ties the entire course into a single coherent operating model. And it's the lesson where I'm going to be the most direct with you about scaling and what it actually requires, because you've earned it, because you've gotten this far. I'll see you in lesson number 5. All right, team, welcome to lesson number 5. This is the final lesson of the course, and I want to start it differently to the others. In lessons 1 through 4, I gave you frameworks, concepts, models, each one addressing a specific structural gap in a coaching business, each one designed to be implemented independently of the others. Whereas this lesson is very different. This model is about what happens when you stop thinking about these pillars individually and start running them as a single integrated operating model. Because the truth is, any one of these pillars in isolation produces a result, a better result than not having it. But the compounding effect of all 4 running together is something categorically different to the sum of its parts. And that is what scaling actually is. It's not doing more of the same thing harder. It's not adding more tactics on top of an already stretched operation. Scaling is what happens when the right infrastructure is running underneath consistent effort and the outputs start to multiply rather than just accumulate. By the end of this lesson, you're going to have a complete picture of the integrated operating model, the specific path from where you are now to 6 figures and beyond, and an honest conversation about what scaling actually requires, including the parts that most business courses skip entirely. So let's get into it. I want to start this lesson off with a comparison. 2 coaches, same niche, same ICP, same follower count, same number of years in the industry, same quality of coaching, on paper, identical businesses. Coach A is earning between $5,000 and $10,000 per month. Some months better, some months worse. They are working 50 to 60 hours a week. Their calendar is full, but their pipeline is empty. They have no idea what's going on next month and what it looks like financially. And every new client just adds more work and more stress rather than more stability. They feel like they're running at full capacity and they're going nowhere at the same time. Coach B, though, is earning $15,000 to $25,000 per month consistently. They're working 35 to 40 hours a week. Their pipeline is always moving. They know on the first of every month what their floor is going to be. Every new client adds to a system that is already running rather than adding to a pile that is already overwhelming. They have time to think, time to create, and time to grow deliberately rather than reactively. Same coaching ability, same marketing, same market, and same starting point, but different architecture. Coach A built a job. Coach B built a business. And the difference between those 2 things is not talent or hustle or luck. It's the 4 pillars that we've built throughout this course, running together as a single system. Let me show you exactly what that looks like. The integrated operating model is what you get when the 4 pillars of this course are running simultaneously and feeding each other. And here's how they connect. The foundation drives the acquisition system. In lesson 1, you built clarity on who you serve, what results you deliver, and how your offer is structured. That clarity is not just a positioning exercise. It is the input that makes your acquisition system work. When your ICP is sharp, your content speaks to the right person at a deep level, and your outreach identifies the right profiles immediately. When your method is distinct, your value positioning in the DMs lands differently to every other coach in the same conversation. When your offer stack is built correctly, the screen share or the consultation or the phone call that you have has somewhere logical to go. There is a natural next step that fits the prospect rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. A vague foundation produces a leaky acquisition system. A sharp foundation produces one that converts consistently. The two are inseparable. The acquisition system then feeds the operating system. In lesson 2, you build a client acquisition system that produces a consistent, predictable flow of new clients. The flow is only sustainable if the operating system behind it can handle it without collapsing. A coach who generates 4 new clients per month but has no automated onboarding is adding 3 to 6 hours of manual work per intake to their already full week. A coach with a unified operating system adds 4 new clients per month and the system handles all of it: onboarding, contracts, billing, program access automatically. Same acquisition result, completely different operational experience. The acquisition system and the operating system have to scale together. Building one without the other produces a different kind of problem. Either you have a great system but not enough leads to fill it, or you have great lead flow but infrastructure that collapses underneath the volume. The operating system enables the recurring revenue model. In lesson 3, you built the operational infrastructure that handles delivery without manual drag. That infrastructure is what makes the recurring revenue model from lesson 4 actually workable at scale. Because here's the reality of a retention membership without systems. If you're manually managing 20 clients on a core program and simultaneously trying to manually manage 30 clients on a retention tier, that is 50 sets of manual check-ins, 50 invoices, 50 relationships to build and maintain by hand. That is not a business. That is a breakdown waiting to happen. But when your operating system is running, when check-ins are automated, when billing is automated, when communications are centralized, and the client experience is systemized, adding 30 retention clients to your roster is not 30 times the work. It's a small increment on infrastructure that is already running. The system scales, you don't have to. The recurring revenue model stabilizes everything above it. In lesson 4, you build the financial floor. And what that floor does, beyond the obvious financial stability, is change the quality of every decision that you make in all other pillars. Your content is better when you're not creating it from a place of financial anxiety. Your outreach is more effective when you're not desperate for every conversation to convert. Your client delivery is more present and more generous when you're not thinking about what happens to your income when this client finishes. The floor doesn't just make you more stable financially. It makes you better at every other part of your business. And when all 4 pillars are running with a solid floor underneath them, the integrated operating model produces results that none of them could produce independently. I want to walk you through the specific revenue milestones on the path to 6 figures and beyond, and be honest about what each one actually requires. Because I think most business content gives people the destination without the actual map, and a destination without a map is just a wish. The path to $5,000 per month. At this level, the primary constraint is almost always client acquisition. The coaches who are not yet consistently hitting 5K per month are typically not getting enough of the right people into conversations, or the conversations that they are having are not converting at a sufficient rate. The fix at this milestone is almost entirely in lesson 2. Sharpen the ICP, get the outreach volume to a consistent daily input, build the 5-phase DM process properly, and track the metrics: response rate, qualification rate, screen share or call rate, close rate, so you know exactly where the leak is. The other piece at this milestone is offer pricing. A coach who needs 5 new clients per month at $1,000 each to hit $5,000. versus a coach who needs 2 new clients per month at $2,500 each is doing very different amounts of work for the same amount of revenue. If your pricing is too low for your outcome, fix it before you try and fix your volume. The path from $5,000 to $10,000 per month. At this level, the constraint shifts. Coaches who are consistently hitting 5K per month are usually starting to feel the operational drag. They have got enough clients that the manual workload is starting to eat into the time that they need for client acquisition and content. This is where the operating system from lesson 3 becomes a non-negotiable. The coaches who break through $10,000 per month are the ones who have installed enough systems and enough automations and enough infrastructure that adding new clients does not proportionally add new work. They've reclaimed the hours from the admin and they put them back into the activities that actually generate revenue. This is also the milestone where the first layer of the recurring revenue model starts to matter. Getting even 5 to 10 clients onto a monthly retention offer at this stage changes the financial experience of the business dramatically. It does not get you to $10,000 a month on its own, but it creates a floor that makes the journey to $10,000 per month significantly less stressful. The path from $10,000 to $20,000 per month. This is where most coaches hit the ceiling that I described at the beginning of this lesson. They're at capacity, they're delivering well, the business is working, but there's no obvious path to doubling revenue without doubling the workload, which is not physically possible. Breaking through this ceiling requires 2 things. First, the revenue model from lesson 4 needs to be delivering a meaningful monthly recurring revenue. At $20,000 per month, you want somewhere between 30 and 50% of that to be recurring, meaning $6,000 to $10,000 per month in retention memberships and retainer revenue. That floor is what gives you the financial stability to make the strategic moves that unlock the next level. Second, this is the point where delegation enters the conversation. Not full team building yet, but the first strategic hire or contractor. Someone who takes specific tasks off your plate so that your hours can go towards the highest leverage activities only you can do. I'll come back to the delegation in more detail in a moment because I think it's the most understood lever in the scaling conversation. The path from $20,000 to $50,000 per month and beyond. At this level, the business is no longer just a coaching practice. It's an organization. And organizations require systems, people, and leadership, not just a great coach running everything personally. The coaches who break through $20,000 per month sustainably have done 3 things. They have built an offer suite that serves clients at multiple price points and multiple stages, meaning their revenue is not dependent on any single one offer type. They've built a team, even a small one, that handles the delivery, the admin, and potentially client acquisition in ways that do not require them personally anymore. And they've transitioned from being the operator of the business to the leader of it. That transition from operator to leader is the hardest one in business. And it's the one that most coaches never actually complete. Not because they're incapable of doing it, but because nobody told them that it needed to happen. I said that I'd come back to the delegation side of things, so let me address it directly now. Most coaches resist the delegation because one of 3 reasons. The first is financial. They feel they can't afford to hire someone. They look at their current revenue and the cost of a team member and the numbers just don't add up. The second is control. They have built everything themselves. They know exactly how everything works. The idea of handing any part of that to someone else just feels like a loss of quality and a risk that they're not willing to take. And the third is infrastructure. They want to hire someone, but they don't have anything to hand over. Everything just lives in their head, and there are no documented processes. There are no systems. There's nothing that a new person could pick up and run with. And all 3 reasons are real concerns. And all 3 of them have the same answer. You cannot afford not to delegate. And the way you make delegation possible is by building the infrastructure before you need it. So let me address the financial objection first. The coaches who say that they can't afford to hire are almost always thinking about it incorrectly. The question is not, can I afford to pay someone? The question is, what is my time worth? If your coaching produces $200 per hour of value and you're spending 20 hours per week on tasks that could be delegated for $20 per hour, you are destroying $3,600 of potential value per week to save the cost of a part-time assistant. That's not prudence. That's the most expensive decision that you have to make every week. The control objection is understandable, but ultimately self-limiting. The business that only works because you personally touch every part of the business is not a business. It's dependency. And a dependency has a ceiling equal to your personal capacity. The goal is to build a business that works because the systems and the people are right, not because you're always in it. The infrastructure objection is the most legitimate of the three, and it's exactly why we built the operating system in lesson 3 before having this conversation. When your processes are documented, when your client experience is systemized, when your onboarding is automated, you have something to hand over. Delegation becomes possible because the knowledge is in the system, not in your head anymore. The first hire most coaches should make is not a coach, and it's not even a social media manager. It's someone who handles the operation and administrative load of the business. The tasks that the system handles partly, but that still need the requirement of a human touch. Things like inbox management, lead tracking, content scheduling, and basic client communication. That hire, even at 10 to 15 hours per week, typically recovers enough of your time to generate significantly more revenue than it costs. The math almost always works in your favor. The barrier is psychological, not financial. I want you to remember that. I want to spend a few minutes being genuinely honest with you about what scaling actually requires. Because I think there's a version of the scaling conversation that is sold in this industry that is not fully truthful. And to me, honestly, I would rather give you the real picture. Scaling requires patience that most coaches underestimate. The infrastructure that I've described in this course, the foundation, the acquisition system, the operating system, the recurring revenue model, does not produce results overnight. The DM system takes weeks to build the momentum. The recurring revenue floor takes months to compound into a meaningful level. The operating system takes time to configure and refine. There is a period, sometimes a long one, between building these things and seeing the full output of them. And most coaches give up during that period. They build part of the system, they don't see immediate results, and they conclude that it's not working and go back to winging it. The coaches who hit 6 figures and beyond are not necessarily the ones with the best systems. They are the ones, however, who built the systems and then ran them consistently long enough to produce the compounding results that the infrastructure creates. Scaling requires honesty about your current ceiling. At some point in the scaling journey, the ceiling you're hitting is not a systems problem or a marketing problem. It is a you problem. The way you think about business, the stories you tell yourself about what's possible, the pricing you feel comfortable with charging, the clients you feel worthy of attracting, the version of yourself that you're willing to become to run a business at the level that you say you want. This is not comfortable to hear, I understand that, but it's real and it's something that most people don't talk about. And the coaches who break through 6 figures and beyond are almost always the ones who have done some version of this internal work alongside the external building. Because scaling requires investment in tools, in education, in people, in time, in the coaches. The coaches who are trying to build 6-figure businesses for free, using only free platforms, avoiding any paid support, doing everything themselves individually and indefinitely, are making the journey significantly harder than it needs to be, and I would probably almost say almost impossible. The right infrastructure costs money. Good mentorship costs money. Delegation costs money. And the return on these investments, when they are the right investments at the right time, is almost always significantly higher than the cost. But you have to be willing to invest before you see the return. That is what investment means. And finally, scaling requires doing the boring work consistently. Not the exciting new strategy sessions and things that you're going to implement, not the big launches, not the moments of inspiration, the daily outreach, the consistent content, the follow-ups, the retention conversations, the tracking, the refining, the unglamorous repetitive work that builds the compounding results over time. The coaches who hit 6 figures are not doing anything particularly brilliant. They are doing the right things consistently for a long enough time that it compounds and takes over. That's it. That is honestly the secret. That's literally the secret. That's all it is. I want to close the teaching content of this lesson with a clear sequential action plan, because after 5 lessons of frameworks and models, the most useful thing that I can give you is a specific order of operations. So here's the sequence. Step 1, lock the foundation. Before anything else, make sure your identity is clear, your ICP is sharp, and your 3-layer offer stack is in place with pricing that reflects the value of your outcomes. If any of these are vague or incomplete, start here. Everything else runs on this. Once it's done, move on to step 2, which is the installation of the acquisition system. Build your top of funnel content cadence. Build the competitor interception outreach process. Build the 5-phase DM sequence. Build the follow-up infrastructure. Get the system running at consistent daily inputs and start tracking the metrics. Do not move to step 3 until this is generating a consistent flow of qualified conversations. Step 3, build the operating system. While the acquisition system is generating momentum, build the unified operating system. Consolidate your tools, automate the onboarding, and build the automated billing. Systemize the client delivery experience, reclaim the hours that are currently going to manual admin, and put them back into the acquisition and content. Step 4, build the revenue floor. Once the operating system is running and you're consistently bringing in new clients, begin the retention conversation with every client at the halfway mark of their core engagement. Build the retention offer. If it doesn't exist, start tracking your monthly recurring revenue every single week. Set a 90-day MRR target and work towards it systematically. Step 5 is scale with leverage. With all 4 pillars running, identify where your time is still going that could be delegated or further automated. Make this the first strategic hire. Begin layering paid acquisition on top of the organic system to amplify the top of funnel. Expand the offer suite if there is a demand for it, and transition progressively from operator to leader, which means spending more of your time on strategy, relationships, and growth, and less on execution. This sequence matters. The order is not arbitrary. Each step creates the conditions that make the next step possible. Trying to scale before the operating system is in place is what creates the ceiling that breaks coaches at $10,000 per month. Trying to build the operating system before the acquisition system is generating revenue is building infrastructure with nothing to run through it. The sequence is the strategy. I want to close this lesson with a picture, not a projection, not a promise, but a picture of what 6-figure coaching businesses actually look like and feel like when they're running properly. You wake up on the 1st of every month and you know, within a reasonable margin, what you are going to make that month. And it's not because you're a psychic, but because you have a recurring revenue floor that's already there, a pipeline that's moving consistently, and a system that you trust to produce results. Your morning does not start with 8 tabs and a list of manual tasks. It starts with one screen that shows you exactly what needs attention today. Most of it, the system has already handled. Your sales conversations feel different. You're not in them because you need the sale. You're in them because you are genuinely assessing whether you can help this person, and the posture that creates is the one that closes more sales than any script ever written. Your clients are getting consistent results, not because you're reinventing the wheel for each one, but because you've built a delivery system that reliably produces the outcome you promised. And a high percentage of them are staying in your ecosystem after the core program ends, adding to a floor that grows every month. You have time, not unlimited time, but enough to think clearly, to create deliberately, to work on the business rather than just work in it, to make strategic decisions from a place of stability rather than a place of reactiveness or a place of scarcity. That is the 6-figure coaching business. It's not a fantasy. It is an infrastructure question. And you now have the complete blueprint for building it. And this is the end of the teaching content. In the what to do next lesson, I'm going to bring everything together one final time and tell you exactly what to do next, depending on where you are in your business right now. I'll see you there. All right, team, well done on getting this far. That is the course. 5 lessons, the foundation, the acquisition system, the business operating system, predictable revenue, the scaling playbook, the complete blueprint for building a 6-figure fitness coaching business, not through working harder, but building something that works differently. I want to take a few minutes now to bring it all together one final time so it makes total sense. And then I'm going to tell you what to do next exactly for your business and for your stage of business and where you're at. If you've watched every lesson in this course, and especially if you've implemented everything as you go, you now have something that the vast majority of fitness coaches do not have. You have a complete operating model for your business. You have clarity on your identity, who you serve, what specific results you deliver, how your offer is structured across 3 layers to create both premium revenue and a recurring floor. You've got a client acquisition system, a top of funnel strategy that generates attention from the right people consistently, a 5-phase DM process that qualifies leads without pitching, a follow-up and nurturing infrastructure that keeps your pipeline moving even when you're not actively working it. You have a blueprint for your business operating system, what consolidation looks like, what automation handles, where the hidden tax is coming from in your current setup and how to eliminate it. The 3-layer leverage model that gives your time back. You've got a recurring revenue model. You know what your MRR is right now. You know what your retention offer needs to look like. You know how to have the retention conversation at the right moment. And you know why MRR, not total monthly revenue, is the number that actually tells you why your business is healthy. And you now have the scaling playbook, the integrated operating model, the revenue milestones and what each one requires, the honest version of what scaling actually demands, and a clear sequential order of operations for building from where you are right now to where you want to be. That is not a small thing. That is a complete framework and it's completely yours. And now I want to be honest with you about what comes next, because there are 2 paths from here and both of them are very, very legitimate. Path number 1 is you implement this yourself. Everything in this course is implementable without any further help from me or anyone else. The frameworks are complete. The sequences are documented. The logic is there. If you are the kind of person who takes a blueprint and builds from it, then go. Start with lesson 1, move to lesson 2, get the acquisition system running, work through the sequence in order and give each step enough time to produce results before moving to the next one. This path works. It is slower than the alternative because you're building and learning simultaneously, and there will be moments where you are not sure if you're doing the right thing or not, and there's nobody there to kind of tell you whether it's right or not, but it still works. And if this course gave you the clarity to do it yourself, then that is exactly the outcome that I've built it for. Path number 2 though, is you want to get there faster. If you've watched this course and thought, I understand this completely, I believe in this model and I want to implement it with support and with the infrastructure that is already built, then there is a conversation worth having. Because what I've described in this course is not just a framework that I teach, it's a system that I have already built. The unified operating system, the automated onboarding, the pipeline management, the follow-up infrastructure, the recurring revenue architecture, the community, the coaching, the implementation support, everything. It all already exists and it is all already running. And it is built specifically for fitness coaches and personal trainers at the exact stage that you are right now. The question is whether you want to build it piece by piece from scratch, which is completely valid if you want, or whether you want to step into something that's already functioning and get the outcome faster. That is not a sales pitch, I promise. It's a genuine question. And the answer depends entirely on where you are right now, what your timeline looks like, and what kind of support that you want around you as you build, grow, and scale. If you're on path 2, if you've watched this course and you felt like Next Level is the infrastructure that you've been looking for and we have the support and provide the support that you're looking for, then here is what I want you to do next. Reach out to me directly on Instagram DMs, or you can click the link below this description to book a call. Send me a message if you're going to DM me on Instagram and tell me that you've watched the course. Tell me where your business is right now, your current monthly revenue, and how many clients you have, what your biggest bottleneck is, and tell me which of the 4 structural gaps feel the most urgent to you. From there, we'll jump on a quick screen share, 15 minutes, and I'll show you exactly what your business looks like running on this operating model. The platform, the automations, the pipeline, the onboarding, the recurring revenue architecture, everything that we've talked about in this course already built and mapped out to your specific situation. No pressure, no hard close. If it makes sense for where you are, we'll talk about what the next steps look like. If it doesn't, then you leave with a clearer picture of what to build and how to build it. Either way, you're better off than before we spoke. That's the offer. A 15-minute screen share, a real look at whether this is right for you right now. If that is something that you want, reach out. The link is below to book a call, or you can reach out to me on Instagram and I'll personally respond to every message. And I want to close with something I mean genuinely. Building a business is hard. It's not complicated, but it is hard. And there is a difference. The concepts in this course are not complicated. The frameworks are clear. The logic is sound and the path is documented. What is hard though is doing the work consistently when the results aren't immediate. Because remember, none of this is guaranteeing results. I'm not guaranteeing you any of these results, and business always comes with a risk, and you being in business is you accepting that risk. So this, by any means, this entire course is not me giving you a guarantee. Having the retention conversation with your clients when it feels uncomfortable, sending the follow-up message when you're not sure how it's going to land, publishing the content on the days when nothing feels inspired, tracking the numbers when you're not sure what they mean or what they're saying to you. The coaches who build six-figure businesses are not the ones who found the shortcut. They're the ones who stayed in the work for long enough for the compounding to start to take over. And they are almost always the ones who had the right support around them at the right moment, whether that was a mentor, a community, a system, or all three. You now have the blueprint. What you do with it is entirely up to you. But if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this course above anything else, it's this. Your coaching ability was never the problem. You are good at what you do. The people you help are better for having worked with you. That is real and that matters. What's been missing is the infrastructure to match the quality of your coaching with a business that reflects it. A business that is stable, predictable, growing, and worthy of the work that you put into it every single day. That business is buildable. This blueprint is in your hands. Now go away and build. And if the Lord allows for us to work together, then let it be, because I'm here to serve. So remember, if you want to contact me and have a conversation, we can do that in Instagram DMs. If you want to book a call, you can do that in the link below. I appreciate your time watching this course, following along, and I hope it gives value.